From the Hill of Torture, captives were brought into the village of Asurnanan. We're standing at one of the corners of the village. Another corner, so that pilgrims can identify where all this happened, another corner would be our red-roofed white chapel that we call the Martyrs and Cattery Chapel. Another would be the little domed 1885 chapel, and then another would be the Pietas statue on the stone steps that is on the brow of the hill. That's where everything happened. In the middle of the village was a platform erected especially for captives who came in. Torture here was ritualistic and purposeful. This wasn't specific to the New World, to indigenous people. We know that torture happened all over the world, different reasons and different cultures. The missionaries would have been aware of what was happening in Europe, post-Protestant Reformation, of tortures going on among Christians themselves. Different reasons, different ways. But here in the New World, it was about a transfer of power. Tribes, people, nature had power. And by breaking down someone, a captive of an enemy tribe, you were taking his power into your own tribe, which was needed. Another reason was to assimilate captives, to replace people in the village in that tribe who had been lost to war and disease, whatever. They might have been captured themselves. Always this replenishing of the population. So these were some of the reasons. But to break them down through pain was one of the reasons for it, as well as to see how well they stand up. The more courage they exhibited, the more power they have, and the more power than the captors would want. So that's how it worked. So St. Isaac's Jogues, René Goupil, here on the grounds in the village enduring all of this. We always can recognize the statue or a portrait of St. Isaac's Jogues because he has fingers missing. This was very common among the tortures in the New World because if you can't use your hands, you're pretty helpless. You can't untie what they've bound you with. You can't help each other if you can't use your hands. So the first thing they would go for was to twist and to bite and pull out fingernails and just mangle the hands. For Isaac Jogues, because he was a priest, this had a terrible result as well. The canonical fingers are the only ones the priest can hold the consecrated body and blood of Jesus Christ with. And when he lost some of those, he could no longer celebrate the Mass. So even though the story is often told that this is why his hands were mangled, it wasn't specifically, it happened to everyone. But for him, it was that much more brutal because it took away now his ability to do that. But he stayed a priest. And even during all this atrocity that was happening to him and the other Huron captives and his friend René Goupil, he was ministering. He was encouraging the captives. He was even baptizing people coming in who were also wounded and bleeding. He took a few drops of dew from an ear of corn he found on the ground to baptize someone. When they cut off his thumb, he lifted it up and raised it up to God as a penance for his own sins. He was amazing. He was so connected with this understanding of the passion of Christ and how we can build that up in our own sufferings. So he was a beautiful witness in that way. And he endured, and both he and René Goupil survived all of that torture and were enslaved here then in the village of Asurnanan.